Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time today to learn more about the ArtsBloom 2025 request for proposals. I'm Heather Anderson with the Office of City Planning. Our team manages the Percent for the Arts program for the city, which includes ArtsBloom. I'm joined by a few other city staffers today. When I call your name, can you please introduce yourself? Kevin Kelly.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Kevin Kelly, and I'm the manager of the Office of City Planning, and happy to be part of the team here that puts together this exciting arts funding.
Thanks, Kevin. Johanna.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Johanna Brennan, and I'm with the City Law Department, and I'm going to be the grumpy old lawyer that works on the contracts that the successful participants will be entering in with the city.
Thank you, Johanna. And Pratheeksha.
Hi, I'm Pratiksha and I'm with the Office of City Planning, and I'll be helping Heather with this Arts Bloom. Yeah.
Thank you, Pratheeksha. And now it's a great segue. Pratheeksha is going to do the presentation this morning. Take it away, Pratheeksha.
Thank you. Um, so f we'll go over the agenda first, and we'll cover the request for proposals, which covers the eligibility and the application, and then we'll go over the lessons learned from last round, and then we'll open for questions. So this year, we have 100,000 in ArtsBloom funding for 2025, of which up to 25,000 is for our center programming. And so it's going to be pretty competitive this year. So I'm first going to talk about eligibility. So individuals or groups are eligible for ArtsBloom funding. Groups or individuals do not have to be a licensed business, MWBE certified, or a nonprofit to receive ArtsBloom funding. And individuals and groups do not have to have a fiscal sponsor, but we do recommend considering whether or not you will need to issue checks to artists or businesses as a part of your project or programming. And if so, whether you're comfortable doing that. Because if your proposal is selected, you will be invoicing the city and receiving payment from the city, and you will be responsible for using that money to pay any artists or businesses that need payment for their services or materials. Uh, And another eligibility criteria is that individuals and groups can have their names only on one proposal. However, it is acceptable if you're applying as a part of an organization and individually, or if you're applying as a part of two different organizations which are submitting two different proposals. So individuals and groups can only receive ArtsBloom funding once every 3 years. So anyone who has been awarded ArtsBloom funding the last 2 years is not eligible this year. So now I'm going to go over the qualifying art programming and projects, the eligibility for it. And the first one, there are 4 eligibility requirements, and the first one is that the programming or the project must belong to one or more of these categories. So for arts education, it can be a class or a workshop. And for literary arts, it could be poetry or prose. And performing arts, it could be music or dance. And for visual arts, that's temporary, could be art exhibitions. So these are some of the examples that qualify for the programmings or projects for ArtsBloom. And the second eligibility for the programming is that it should meet the public benefit criteria. So the arts programming should be within the city boundaries, and we highly recommend that you verify this through this website here, whether or not your project falls within the city boundaries, because there are overlapping zip codes between the city and the neighboring towns. So it's important to verify whether it falls within the city boundaries. So here you can enter the address and it will tell you if your programming falls within the city boundaries or not. And the second public benefit criteria is that it should be free to participants or audiences, or feature a low or a free component uh, in your project. So the other qualifying eligibility for programming is that it should be completed between July 1st of 2025 and June 30th of 2026. Since that is our fiscal year, it is important that the project must be completed in this within these dates. So the last eligibility criteria for art programming and projects is that they must align with one or both of the ArtsBloom goals. And we have these goals to ensure there's more equity and there's opportunity for all artists and residents to access arts. So one of them is to reach historically underserved residents of the city, and the other one is to provide paid opportunities for local artists or small arts organizations in Rochester. So here is a list of programming or projects that are ineligible for ArtsBloom funding. So I'm just going to leave a minute here so you can look at it. And I do want to note that events that are receiving special events funding are not eligible for ArtsBloom funding, and any physical or permanent art is also considered ineligible. This includes murals as well, which is here. And there is a different person for the arts funding for capital projects, and hence it's not eligible in ArtsBloom. And also want to note here that capital improvements are not eligible for ArtsBloom funding. This includes building renovation as well as equipment or tools that will be used beyond the project or programming in your proposal. For example, the city will not pay for items such as drill, ladders, tables, and chairs, because those items will be used by you beyond the project or programming and therefore are considered overhead for you or your organization. You can, however, use ArtsBloom funding to rent equipments needed for your projects or programming. The application can be submitted online, but in case you need a hard copy or you want to submit the application as a Word or a PDF document, you can email me or Heather about it. So now I'll go over the requirements in your applications, and these are the list of things that you need in your application. So first, because it's an online form, you may not be able to see all the questions at once. So if you do prefer to draft your responses together, you can email me or Heather, and we are happy to provide the Word or the PDF version for you. So going over the application information, you or your organization do not have to be located in the city, but your programming needs to be within the city. You or your program may fit more than one categories that was mentioned earlier, and you can select as many as that apply. I also want to note here that you're not going to get extra points based on the number of categories. And you're gonna also have to select one funding request amount, which is available in $5,000, $10,000, or $20,000. And I also want to note here that up to $25,000 is available for our center programming, which is also available in $5,000, $10,000, or $20,000. So if you answered no to any of the eligibility questions, your project or programming is not eligible for ArtsBloom funding. And it is okay to not have a set date or location. You just need to commit to having it between July 1st to 2025 and June 30th, 2026, and within the city. We do understand that some of these might be too far in advance to propose, but we do require that you commit to having it between these dates. And if you need help to have a project or programming at a city location, such as an art center, park, or a library, we can certainly help with that as well. So you will also have to answer questions whether your programming is free or has a low cost component. If it is low cost, you will need to include all known details, including what the cost would be without ArtsBloom funding. And if there is a free or a low cost component, you will need to share the details. For example, how many people will receive the free or low cost component? And how will you determine who gets the free or low cost fee? And what the cost will be for other people? Questions in the application lay out exactly what we need. So don't worry taking notes. So projects or programmings can also be considered sliding scale or optional donation if marketed as such, and the city will require marketing proof for that. So there is also a public benefits section of the application. We did go over the ArtsBloom goals earlier, and these are very important questions, and we do recommend that you spend some time on seeing how your projects or your programs meet the ArtsBloom goal. And the project need not align with both the goals. However, I will say that projects that align with both the goals score higher. And please include artists or project team addresses where requested in the application so we can assess ArtsBloom goal alignment. And the other thing that you can mention in the public benefit section is the other public benefits that your project or programming will have that we didn't think about. So it would be helpful for us to know that as well. So in the budget section, we would like you to include as many details as possible, including all expenses that are known and things like staff hours and billing rates and any other expenses. We just want to know how much money you expect to be receiving and how it will all be spent. And we also ask that you list all other additional funding sources for your programming or project. And if you expect more than one source of funding for your programming or project, please show us which funding costs will cover the ArtsBloom funding. And we want to know what you propose to spend the ArtsBloom funding on, basically. So another component in the budget is that if you plan to have a cost for the participants or audiences, please include what expenses the cost will cover, because we assume that if it isn't free, there's a cost that needs to be covered, and we want to know what that is. And we do highly encourage marketing, which can also be a part of your budget, but we also want to know how exactly you're going about the marketing part as well. And the administrative fees cannot exceed 20% of the budget, of the ArtsBloom budget. However, if you do have other sources of funding, we understand that theoretically the admin fees could be more if you have a large funding for the project. So in the application, you will find two places to upload your experience or your experiences related to the program. So please combine all images and upload it as a single file. For example, put all images in one PDF, and you can upload that together, because this will decrease the likelihood of human error from our end. And please include links to videos in your response in the experience section question. In this section, we want to get to know your full team and their experience. We're also looking for workforce goals, bonus points, as well as MWPE bonus points. The city has goals for a certain percentage of contracts to work through contracts to be awarded to women and minority workers. And MWPE goals here only apply to 20,000 funding requests. So these are the evaluation criteria, and I'm just going to give you a minute to go over the evaluation criteria. And I do recommend that you go over the RFP before you fill out the application, and you review it before you submit it. I already discussed the MWBE and workforce goal points. And please note that the city also awards bonus points for consultants that are located or have an office in the city. And like I mentioned earlier, we do have up to 25,000 for programming at our centers, which is available in 5,000, 10,000, or 20,000 as well. So lessons learned. So these are the things that we have observed in the past 2 years in order to make better process for ArtsBloom. And the one thing we have observed is that there's a lack of clarity in project description. So please take your time with your project description. And another thing that we have observed is that not enough information is there to show how well the proposal met the ArtsBloom goals. So how is your project providing economic opportunities for local artists? And another one is that there is no budget, or there are errors in budget. And sometimes there's inconsistency as well in budgets, where your proposal does not match what you requested for. So these are some things that we have seen. And another thing we've also observed is that many performing artists relied on free event to satisfy reaching underserved residents, but we would want to know more about it, as in how exactly are you trying to reach the underserved residents, and if you're marketing it as such, or how exactly they're connected. So we want to know more information about that. And One last note is that it's a very competitive process. And in the first year, we received 56 applications, and last year we received 59 applications. So I will say that you need to give yourself time beforehand in case you have any technical issues, and technical issues will not justify accepting a late application. Um, in 2 years, we have only had 2 applications not be able to submit because of technical issues. So save yourself the heartbreak. So please give yourself enough time. And since it's also very competitive this year as well. So here is the proposed timeline for ArtsBloom this year. The next deadline is the deadline for questions on Sunday, April 20th at 11:59 p.m. EST. And all questions received will be answered the week of April 28th. And the responses will be posted as a PDF on the RFP webpage and emailed to everyone who has emailed about the RFP and everyone who's registered for today's session. The reason we have a deadline for the questions is to ensure an equitable process and everyone has access to all the information. And the proposals are due 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, May 11th. And the selections and the award notifications will be out on the week of June 2nd. So I'm just going to give a minute here in case you want to take a look. And this is also there in the RFP. So now we are open for questions, and feel free to put your questions in the chat or raise your hand, and we will answer them in the order we receive it.
Thank you, Pratiksha. We have one question in the chat so far, so I'll go ahead and read that. For assistance with locations within the city, can we state need like assistance, but can the exact locations be reviewed and identified upon selection? And the answer is yes, absolutely. We can determine location together after selection. And just to clarify, it's the city locations, right? So parks, art centers, or libraries, city-owned locations are what we're offering help with. Just to get another level of detail in there, I will say if you're looking for, by assistance, you might be thinking about assistance in terms of funding. You can include funding to rent a space as part of your ArtsBloom budget. Pratiksha, can you go ahead and stop sharing screen so we can all see each other's lovely faces better? Thank you. Okay. Another question, do we have a way to modify the Google form after submitting? Let me get back to you on that. I think there was an option, I'm pretty sure there's an option to enable people to do that. And we did that last year. So let me make sure I have that enabled because I would like people to be able to alter until the deadline if they would like to. So let me get back to you on that. Okay, and another question, let's see. What about schools, including their parks grounds? So that's, we can make connections with on-site staff. Of course, it's going to be a discussion with on-site staff, whether they're open to having specific programming or projects on their sites. So we can't guarantee that, right? But we're happy to make those connections and be part of the conversation to help you secure a site. Schools are kind of a special situation sometimes because our CSD is a little separate than city. And because there are children on site and they have use of the site for certain hours, they can have more specific ideas about what is allowed there. Can proposals potentially be awarded for lesser amounts? For example, if an org requests 10,000, could they potentially be awarded 5,000? That's a great question. We try to not do that. We recognize that there are sometimes or could be a situation in which once we have people scored, we might get to a point where we have a smaller amount available than what the next person asked for. And that hasn't happened yet, thankfully. But if it does happen, we would reach out to that potential awardee and have a conversation about it to see if they're open to that and kind of discuss it from there. Okay, so the next question. So 75,000 is available for any non-Art Center program, correct? 25,000 is already earmarked for Art Center programs, but still open to apply. That is correct. That is correct. Do we need letter of support from Art Center libraries? No, you do not. If you have that, if you already are in conversation with staff about programming that you're proposing for a location for an art center or a park or a library, that's great. Feel free to include it, but you don't need it. It's not a requirement. We're happy to make those conversations, facilitate those conversations after award selection or with award selection. So seeing no questions, I just want to double back to say, have I answered everyone's questions so far to their satisfaction? Feel free to unmute yourself if I answered a question, but it didn't actually answer your question, if that makes sense. Okay. Hearing no additions, I'll move on to the next question that just popped up. If the program has an element that takes place at an art center, does that make it eligible for the earmarked funding? That's interesting. So, Jen, are you saying that you're thinking of a proposal for programming that would have one component at an art center, but potentially another component at a different location?
Yes, it would have, several different locations or sites.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So I want to say yes. We'll have to kind of figure out what that means for the up to 25,000, and we'll work with Department of Rec and Human Services on that, right? So if your
Okay.
proposal was selected, I almost want to say that that the part of the budget that would be for the Art Center program might be the part that we call out from the 25. Does that make sense? So your like proposal total budget might not come out of that 25. It might just be the part that is for the Art Center program that comes out of the 25.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. Can the program design be something like a weekly program that serves more clients in total versus one event? I think I understand that is fine since we have space for about 8 to 10 participants at a time. Absolutely. It absolutely can. And we've had both. We've had programs that are weekly or twice a week for the duration of a school year, or we have programs that are kind of like in 8 sessions across a certain amount of time, or we have things that are more like a weekend workshop series where it's like 2 days of a weekend. Or we might have performances that are just individual performances. So we kind of have everything across that spectrum. Yes. So all of those things are eligible. Okay, I want to, since there's a moment, I've had one request already, actually, I think two for the digital for PDF and Word or Word version of the application. And I apologize that we haven't gotten back to one of you. It's on this meeting. I'm going to get back to you by end of day today. With that, you wouldn't think it would be difficult to make the PDF or Word version of an application like that, but because in the Google form, there are certain things where if you answer a certain way on this question, it skips you to this question. It makes it a little more complicated to try and have an equivalent PDF or Word version. But we're almost there, and I will have that available for folks starting hopefully by end of day today. We understand that even if you're going to do the online form, it can be helpful to see all of the questions ahead of time. So yeah, we'll have that available. Feel free to email me if you want that, and we'll get it to you, me or Pratiksha. and we'll get that to you. Pratiksha, do you want to drop your email in the chat as well so folks have both of our emails? Okay, another question. Can I add my name to those looking for the PDF? Yes, absolutely, Sean. We will get it to you again, hopefully by end of day today. Okay. So, thank you all for your time. This, of course, is not the only opportunity to ask questions. Feel free to follow up via email. We will, as Pratiksha mentioned, have a response document that we send to folks at a specific week once we're past the question deadline. I think that Pratiksha and I were talking about this. It would probably be helpful for you all to see the last 2 years of our response documents so that you can see questions from the past and how we've responded to them. So we'll go ahead and send those out to you all as well, just in case they're helpful background information. But if you have a general eligibility question, please feel free to email us because we want to respond to that as soon as possible because we know that no one wants to spend time on an application if they're questioning whether or not they're eligible. So please feel free to reach out to us with any of those questions. They're usually relatively easy for us to answer quickly. Okay, so with that, a call for last questions? Oh, Delbra, go ahead.
So I just have a question regarding, so I know that in the past, if we have applied, we might have gotten a blanket. Unfortunately, there were so many requests and you were not chosen. But if we are looking, if we're, I guess my question is if it's more technical, like if there were technical issues, which is the reason why I didn't, if we ask, are we able to get a more deeper understanding?
Yes, absolutely. We feel free to, if you apply and you're not selected this round, please feel free to follow up to ask for more specific feedback. We're happy to give it. We don't default to it because if we're saying no to 50 applicants, it's difficult to default to giving more specific information to everyone. But anyone who follows up and asks for specific feedback, for more feedback, we give it. We take the time and we give it. So please feel free to do that.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. With that, again, thank you all for your time. We're so excited for another round of ArtsBloom. Please follow up. Hi, little one. I see a little one just popped in. Hi. Please feel free to follow up with any more questions you have, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.